you may have heard of Toni's Kitchen, because we've been in Montclair since 1982. So we just recently celebrated our 35th anniversary, so we were pretty happy about that back in October. And I'll start with a number that we're pretty proud of, and we just actually did the computing of. We served, both on-site and in the community, over 130,000 meals in 2017. So that's the biggest we've ever done. And when we say meals, that number can actually be broken down to describe the different programming that we do. So historically, we are a soup kitchen, and that's our core mission. That's what started in 1982. That's what we still continue to do, and it's a very important part. It's our heart and soul. And that started 3 days a week, where everyone and anyone was welcome. And the kind of core tenets of that were that we provide a warm, welcoming environment, hot, healthy meal in an environment of respect. And we maintain that to today, and that's very important to us. Over about 8 years ago or so, when our new director, Ann Vernon, started, they added a Sunday meal. So it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Then they added a Sunday evening meal at 5 o'clock, so 4 days a week. And that was a day to just have a different kind of meal, a little more casual. Usually it's a 4-course sit-down meal, and Sundays it's a 3-course meal. It's also when we welcomed some of our younger volunteers, our younger kids, to come in and volunteer with us, because there was a desire in the community to have younger volunteers. So we kind of helped with that. And within having this environment, like I was mentioning, respect and providing a hot, healthy meal and welcoming everybody, over the years, as things began to change economically in the climate, we noticed that the number of guests were increasing and the needs were increasing. So you had a greater influx of people with food insecurity, and also when that happens, or when there's any kind of economic depression in any way, usually there's other things that go hand in hand with that. So maybe that means that, housing costs are now difficult too. So we recognized that there were some other issues that guests were facing, and that maybe we could help them out with. So within that, we started to look at what kind of programming can we connect guests with on site. What do they need? And one of the biggest things that came up was just some basic health screening. And we recognized that many people have diabetes, hypertension. These are common chronic health conditions that can definitely be exacerbated by poor nutrition or lack of nutrition. So one was to overhaul our meal program to make sure that we were again, coming all the way back to respect, and that we were respecting our guests' health and making sure that that we were keeping them as healthy as possible by serving them the food that would certainly not contribute to any chronic health issues. And in tandem with that, offering on-site blood pressure screening and glucose monitoring, so that while they're right there having a meal, if they're feeling like they need that screening, they can pop on back. We have nurses that volunteer with us. They can get a screening. And if there's a problem, we have taken guests to the emergency room with elevated blood pressure or very high sugar or very low sugar, and then from there help them get connected with any services they would need, via Mountainside, or follow up with the Salvation Army, who has some case management services. Also within that kind of core services, other than just the food, we also provide mental health counseling. So guests can meet with some psychologists that volunteer through the Mental Health Association, make an appointment like you would anywhere else. You come in, and if it happens to be during meal service, we make sure that we package everything up for you so you don't miss a meal, and you can come take advantage of that. So that's how our on-site program has grown over the past couple years. And then within that, what sometimes we like to say, what I have in the brochure here, so that's in the dining room, and then we have beyond the dining room, out in the community, the other ways that we engage in addressing food insecurity. is through our Healthy Backpack program. So we partner with different organizations in Montclair, some schools, some tutoring programs, mentoring programs, wherever there are organizations where there are also low-income families or just families that are experiencing a crisis, then those organizations let us know, I have 4 families, I have 6 families, I need 10 backpacks, I need 20 backpacks. And what the backpacks are basically, just looks like a regular backpack, and it's filled with healthy non-perishables. So peanut butter, tuna, pasta, rice, beans, some healthy snacks, shelf-stable milk, cereal, oatmeal, and then also a bag of fresh produce. So a family will get that once a week. We don't need to know anybody's names. Like I said, the organizations just tell us how many they need. It goes home with the child from the program or wherever they're meeting with that program, and it's just in a backpack. So kind of takes down any stigma that might be associated with receiving groceries. It looks like a regular backpack that anybody else would be taking home from school or from wherever you might be that day. And some families need backpacks on a regular basis and will continue to need backpacks on a regular basis. Other families have come to us just experiencing medical crisis, job crisis, and they need that temporary help. And one of the good things about not receiving state and federal funding, there is a upside to it. And the upside to it for us is that we don't have to, it's not a needs-based program. So, and I'm sure you're probably familiar with other needs-based programs, things like food stamps and SNAP and Medicaid. You know, you have to meet a certain income requirement to be able to take advantage of those services, and that requirement is difficult to meet. It's very, very, very low, and considering the cost of living in New Jersey and in Montclair, it doesn't take much to be above that and not qualify for those services. So we don't have to ask anyone's income or see any kind of paperwork or anything for them to be able to take advantage of some of our services. So we get to fill in for that, which I think is a pretty large but gray area. So you have of people who are struggling, but not struggling in writing, so to speak, enough to where they're going to qualify for state aid or other food pantries that might require you to, because they do get the other funding, to register and show need, so to speak. So that's one program, and that's also what we count in for the meals. So when a backpack is considered several meals worth of food, so that kind of factors into that earlier number that I talked about. And we do almost 200 backpacks a week right now, and that program's growing as well. And the other way that we do meals, outreach meals, are also our partner organizations. Whenever they have their gatherings, and we make sure that there's healthy food for the participants, and in that way our hope is to strengthen the participants' relationship with the organization. So for example, one program that will be starting up next week that we also did last year is ESL, English as Second Language program that's being offered in Montclair. And those participants, when they come to the program, they'll have a full dinner, full spread, and the hope, again, if they know that there's going to be healthy food, I know I like to go when there's food available someplace and there's a meal offered. Food is a great unifier in a lot of ways, so we like to be there for those situations. So that's one example. We do for many different ones. Brother to Brother is a great organization in town, Sister to Sister. We do food for them when they have their gatherings, and the wonderful programming that they do to mentor teens and young children in the area. Succeed Together is a program that we do backpacks with. We also have partnered with the Montclair Library, another great partner organization. Many children in Montclair will use the library as almost a de facto kind of camp. When schools are out, it's there, it's free, it's a wonderful, enriching environment, great people there. It's a natural place to gravitate towards, especially if you're not in a situation where you're going to summer camp or you have a lot of adult supervision at home. And so the library is an area where we knew we can connect and get kids fed. So the library is great, and we make some lunches, some bagged up lunches when the kids are off of school on break or in the summertime when they're off for the longer period of time, and the kids know that they can come to the library and they'll get a bagged lunch for free. And anyone, again, you don't have to show any kind of need. You have to be a child, so you 18 and under to get the lunch. Otherwise, you can come on down to Tony's Kitchen and get lunch there. Again, everybody's welcome there. So that's kind of the extent of our programming. We're also working on getting partnering to get some programming for to reach out to day laborers. It's a marginalized population, and like to help them with some groceries and things like that. So that's our next kind of. We started doing it. We're just trying to expand it a little bit. So that's really everything that we do. I know that Arlene here is one of our volunteers.
My job is so limited compared to what you're talking about.
But it's all part of the bigger
Yes,
picture.
I love it. It's a wonderful place to work. And you have to see, when the guests come in, the tables have tablecloths. People have an image. It's nothing like that. You know, tablecloths, napkins, glasses, coffee, the coffee pot's going, and the food is superb. We get a lot of donations of food.
That's a good point. The
Whole
donations.
Foods.
Yep.
and what's the other
Whole
one?
Foods, we do. We get a lot of really wonderful donations. That's
Oh
a
my
good
God,
point,
the other day
Arlene.
They get salmon, beautiful salmon, really. It's magnificent. So the meals are very healthy, well prepared, and the atmosphere as a volunteer is fabulous. Because we're surrounded by all these wonderful, mainly women, but we have some men who are
Definitely.
workers there. I don't want to shortchange them.
No, for sure.
And we have a community ourselves, so when we're working, cutting vegetables or scraping carrots or whatever we're doing, we're talking to the kids next to us. We have some women who do some cooking because they're so good. They have these wonderful recipes to share. And when I go on Friday, they even play music.
Yeah, the music is nice. It's a nice addition. We hope to get more of that. We're working on expanding our live music offerings.
Do you have any particular days that you need volunteers?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're now open 7 days a week, actually, which still boggles my mind. So Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, we do most of our outreach food preparation. We do it every day, but Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays, the volunteering would be coming to help make sandwiches, salads, dessert platters, something similar to what you might have had today. Also, maybe some donation sorting and things like that. So we always need volunteers to help with that, and that's usually in the morning and early afternoon. Then Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, like what Arlene does, those are our meal service days. We always welcome volunteers to help with that, right? It's a busy, lots to do.
We have a lot of people coming in, sometimes 70 or more.
70 or more guests, yep, on average. So we feed roughly around 75 guests in a meal. And like Arlene said, while we are prepping the meal, we're also getting donations in from Whole Foods, from Trader Joe's, ShopRite. So we're sorting those, we're putting them away. So there's lots going on. And even if you don't like to cook, that's fine, because there's so many other things to do. You can also just come in and serve. Some people just like to help serve the meal. We do everything restaurant style. So all the guests come in, they help themselves to the drinks that they'd like, but then they sit down at the table, and everyone is served their own plate, 4 courses, like I said, and then Sundays it's 3 courses. Just don't do a soup on Sundays.
Some of the food is unbelievable.
Yeah.
We have a woman who's making homemade hummus because we bring out little plates of hummus with carrots in it. I mean, it's phenomenal. It's
It is
just
good.
phenomenal.
I eat whenever
And the amount of
it's
good
on there.
bread that comes in.
So, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Suggestion would be maybe to print out something and leave it at the library or at places like this of the days and hours that you need people to volunteer. And
Sure.
you can phone them, you can call.
Yeah, I brought some brochures today, and I'll leave those. But we had some at the library, but if you haven't seen any, I can definitely get some more over there. That's great. Thank you. We do. So we do have a website, and we're in the process of going to overhaul it soon, but right now it still has all of the relevant information. So if you want to volunteer, there's an easy way to just sign up online. You fill out very quick, easy registration. You fill that out, and then it just brings up the schedule, and you look and see what days are available, and then you can click on there and sign yourself up. And I do like to tell volunteers, like I've told Arlene, I'm sure, a million times, if you don't see a slot available, you can always email me. Whatever email's on the computer, on this, I get all those emails. I'm the one email central location. So you'll get an answer back from me, and you can say, hey, I didn't see anything open on Thursday at 9 o'clock. Can you still use some help? I'd like to come. And typically, unless it's an unusual day where we might have like a group coming in, or we might have a packed day, there is a point where we might say that we have enough volunteers for one day, just because the physical space, we don't want anyone to feel overcrowded, and we want certainly all the volunteers to feel like they have meaningful work to do when they come in. But for the most part, the schedule can be really flexible. But that's a great idea about leaving some more stuff at the library, and I'll definitely leave some things here today.
Where does your funding come from? And do you get any help from the city?
No, so our funding is all is private donations, grants, things like that. So we don't have any state or federal or city funding.
So you don't have any, Montclair doesn't help you at all?
The city. No. The Montclair community and the residents are very generous in that regard, and so surrounding towns, and that's where I was saying how we can be a little bit more flexible with how we provide our services, because we don't have to show a need. People don't have to show a need. I'm sorry, I know you had a question.
Oh, that's okay. Are you located at St. Luke's?
Yes, so we are a food ministry of St. Luke's Church. So we're located there, but we are a food ministry of St. Luke's Church. It was started by St. Luke's parishioners in 1982 as a Lenten project as a response to an increased homelessness that some of the parishioners have seen in the area, and it grew from that.
And also, do you do anything with clothing?
Yes, yep, we do. We do have some clothing distribution. We do have the Second Time Around shop, which is the thrift store of St. Luke's, but for our guests on site, we do have some clothing distribution. So sometimes we'll just have a table set up in the back, and it's kind of what donations might have come in, we'll put them out, and then a few times a year we'll also do we'll do a coat distribution, and also we always have things like warm socks, new socks, warm socks, and toiletries. If guests ever need those, we'll give them out periodically, but guests know, or we make it known that they can come and ask for those things if they need them as well.
I don't know if I should ask this question, but
That's okay.
what is security in the place? I know that you have various people coming, and sometimes you may refer some to mental health and stuff. Now, this is not like a criticism or anything.
Sure.
I just want to know, is it a safe environment in general, or what are you doing in terms of security?
We don't have security per se as actual people that are there hired as security per se. We do have our volunteers, and we have staff members, and we have a system for emergencies. And I would have to say, for the most part, certainly, I think as in anywhere, you can't always predict, what emergencies will arise, or, some of our guests do have mental health issues or just dealing with difficult things. But for the most part, we're able to just respond in a way that no one has gotten hurt. We have a lot of support within our volunteer community and with staffing, and like I said, we have a process that we follow that might not seem evident if you walked in, but internally we know the process, and we, if we need to, put it into place, it goes pretty smoothly. But actual security, we don't have security. We don't hire anyone specifically to do that kind of job. But I have to say, I volunteered there years ago, but I've been working there as the assistant director since 2015. And it's a pretty warm and wonderful environment. And certainly there's disagreements and people not getting along, but I have to say that I think the energy and environment that we put out is pretty well reflected there. So we haven't really gone that route of bringing in security specific for that.
You mentioned volunteers and staff. You have people, employees of the Toni Kitchen. Tell us about who they are, how many,
Sure.
and what position they
Sure.
do.
So we're fortunate to have lots of volunteers who really do the bulk of the work, but we do have a director, Ann Mernon. She's full-time. She's our director. I'm the assistant director. I'm part-time. And then we have 2 part-time kitchen managers, Veronique Ramsey and Stacy Cooper. And that's it for staffing. We also have a driver. Sorry, that's not it for staffing. We have a part-time driver, too, that helps us. Is great, Dylan, with doing deliveries and donation pickups. And we also have a lot of volunteer drivers that help, too. Driving is if anyone is interested, I know it's not the most popular one, but we're always looking for drivers to help pick up donations or do deliveries. So if you know of anyone that's interested in that sort of thing, that's definitely one of the greater needs. But otherwise, we rely on volunteers. For our volunteers are the lead cooks. None of our cooks are paid. They're all volunteers, and they help do the menu planning. And then, of course, all the volunteers that carry out all of the actual cooking, the backpack packing. We have an advisory board, volunteer advisory board, and they handle things like grant writing, doing all of our social media, our finances. So we're fortunate because we're a slim paid staff and then just a really robust volunteer base, which is, we're fortunate. Yeah, and I know it's a delicate balance that it can be, Sure. Like I said, we try to really create that kind of that environment of mutual respect, and with the guests and the volunteers and the staff, all for the majority, all work together and all are supportive of one another. And then when it doesn't go that way, like I said, we have processes that we can handle it, and it's gone well so far.
I have a commercial driver's license, so I would like to be a driver if I could fit it in. So how do I apply for that? Or do you just call the number in that?
So yeah, so for driving, so what we have a couple of different opportunities. The only glitchy part about driving, which is one of the reasons why it can be limiting, is that you usually have to lift a lot of heavy stuff. If you're comfortable lifting heavy things, then it's fine. We do pickups from Whole Foods in Montclair, and we do deliveries of our backpacks around town. That's all locally. The backpacks themselves are not terribly heavy because they do go home with kids. So delivering backpacks. What we usually do is have folks that are interested in driving to come in and volunteer with us first in the kitchen. It doesn't mean you have to do anything, major. I say I don't like cooking, I'm doing that. We just say to have volunteers always come in and volunteer with us first in the kitchen, because really then you can really get to understand the nature and the energy of the program, and we get to know you get to know us, and then we kind of branch out into other volunteer opportunities that you might be interested in. Sometimes volunteers come up with their own great ideas, and we're super open to that. So I could talk with you more about that later.
So you every day, do you cook a different meal every day? Is it dependent on the donations that you get? How does it work?
That's a great question. So we do cook the 4 days that we serve. We cook something different on those 4 days, and it is a combination of donations that we might have gotten in, but also what we've purchased. And as I was mentioning earlier, when we overhauled the nutrition. And that was with a dietitian and a registered nurse. We knew that we follow the whole plate guidelines with whole grain, vegetable, a high quality protein, and we always include fruit in our meals as well, fresh fruit. So we know that we have to hit those marks. So if for some reason we don't hit it with the donations that we've gotten in. Like, for example, we get wonderful fresh meat donations from Trader Joe's. But if for some reason we did not meet that, then we would purchase it, because we always have to make sure that we hit those guidelines. So it's a combination of both. We will get in sometimes a amazing, wonderful, big donation of fresh-made guacamole from Whole Foods. So we might change the menu then to include that on the menu, because it is healthy and it's delicious, and it's usually pretty popular, I think. I like it. So sometimes we'll switch it up based on a larger donation. We recently had a restaurant an Italian deli in Livingston, Tutto Fresco, who said she wanted to cater a whole meal. So she did, and she made homemade meatballs and pasta and catered the whole meal, and that was lovely. So that will happen sometimes, and if that does, then we just switch around our menu a little bit. Maybe we'll freeze something and not use it that day. So it depends. It can be challenging. I'm sure Arlene can tell you stories of days where, maybe we were expecting to get in lots and lots and lots of fresh greens from somewhere, and we didn't. So we have to quickly decide, okay, what can we do instead of a green salad for our appetizer today? Although I have to say, in the summertime, that's really never an issue, because we're fortunate to get so many wonderful garden donations from just local gardeners. Oh, our summers are, if you ever pop by the kitchen in the summer and the late spring and the early fall, the fresh produce will just blow you away, and the food is just, it's amazing all year round. But I have to say, when gardens are in season, it's wonderful. We have our own garden as well. We're lucky to have a plot from Montclair, and it's over on Miller Street. It's a large garden. So if anyone's interested in gardening, we also have garden volunteers that we're always looking for to help with that. And then we have a small herb garden on site, and then also a hanging garden that a Eagle Scout made for us. So and CSAs, community supported agriculture. Some of you might belong to some of those. We get wonderful donations from the Bloomfield Montclair CSA and the Montclair Cooperative, Montclair Food Co-op CSA, and they donate whenever they're always something. There's members that join, but not every share is picked up every week, and they donate all the extras to us, and that makes a huge, huge difference in our offerings in the summertime and in the fall.
I have another question about the people who come. Do you have like regulars that come, most of the time, and they have families or single people?
That's a great question. Yep, that's a great question. So we definitely have people who are regulars who've been coming for years. We have other people that will come and go. We might not see for a while, but then we will. Other people whose just situations have changed and they might not feel that they need to come any longer. Some people don't necessarily have a high food insecurity need, but come for the companionship. They have friends there. They like to interact. Again, maybe they're coming also just to get some mental health services, some counseling. We also have a really wonderful takeaway part of the meal towards the end, where we've got so many lovely donations that come in, so we always make sure that we have something that guests can take with them away, some food to take with them away. We get mostly adults, senior citizens. We don't have a lot of families that come in. It's just a different kind of, it's not set up entirely for families, in the sense that just families are not there when we're there for our lunchtime meal. That's when we have our Thursday, Friday, and Saturday meal, although Saturdays for sure. And that's actually one of the reasons why we began to come up with other programming to address that. There's definitely a food need with families in the area, but they weren't necessarily coming to us, so maybe we could meet them where they're at. So where are they? So they might be at programs at the YMCA, they might be at a tutoring program, they might be in the schools, and then we can reach them through that and hopefully meet some of their food insecure needs, since we know that they're not necessarily coming to a soup kitchen, although we do occasionally get some families in.
Now, you take food donations.
We do. We definitely take food donations.
The dates that they love to put on food donations. Tell me about the dates. How far over before you take a food donation. Because I know they all like to
Right.
put those donations, and I don't believe any of them. When I read that bottle of aspirins, whatever the expiration date is, 10, 20 years later, it's still good.
I know, and there's been a lot of articles recently talking about the true, I think, food expiration and longevity. But we do, per the health department, and just on our own, kind of safety end, we won't serve or give out or accept any expired food. So if it does have that expiration date on it, we aren't going to use it. We are going to still go by that. What we do, though, is we put it out for volunteers. So any volunteers are welcome to take it. We just won't serve it to our guests or to our partner programs. So that's, but volunteers are perfectly, I've taken stuff home, I'm sure, that, it might be like bread that's 2 days past what it says on the container, but, is most likely fine. But we let volunteers decide if they want to do that. So that's a great question, though. But we'll take homemade food donations. We get a lot of great kids who come in, bake brownies and cookies. Soups and stews are great. Sometimes people will say, well, how much do you need? So although we do serve roughly 75 guests at a meal, we also do all the outreach programming. So it can be as something small that might serve 10 people, because we do a parent resource group that meets, and there's only about 8 to 10 people that come to that. So that could be a meal for that group one night. So really any range is appreciated. I know there was a question over here.
So tell us, who is Toni?
Great. That's a great question. So Toni, her real full name, Antoinette Green. She was a cook there was a preschool within St. Luke's at the time, or daycare rather, sorry, not a preschool, and she was the cook for the daycare. And when the parishioners were looking to get this soup kitchen started, she was their first choice from what I understand, since I didn't have the pleasure of knowing her. She passed away in 1996. She was their first choice because of her renown with cooking, and also just her reputation for just a huge generosity of spirit, and just a super kind woman. I mean, obviously, if it's named after her, it's named after her for a reason. It wasn't just that she was there cooking, it was that her whole spirit kind of, set the tone and really made the kitchen what it is and what it continues to be today. So that's the story of Toni, Antoinette Green. And we have a framed picture of her if you ever stop by to see.
Oh, what about parking?
That's a great question. Yeah, so we know parking in Montclair is always a challenge. So we have a small parking lot so that you're welcome to park in, and then of course there's the off-street. There's the street parking. That's 2-hour parking. We're located on the corner of Union Street and South Fullerton, so we're just a few blocks down from the library. There's the lot by the library. It's kind of the constant struggle that I think we all contend with from living here. Although, I have to say, most people do find parking though and come. It's not great, but I don't think it's been a huge deterrent for volunteers or for guests, and I could be wrong, but like I said, it's not perfect, but I don't think it's to the extent where we're just not, people can't get in either. So
volunteers like Ollie, are they committed to once a week or a particular time every week?
that's a great question. Definitely not.
You cannot make it a particular week.
I promise we won't dock your pay or anything. No, you can volunteer as infrequently as you'd like. There's no commitment that you have to sign up for. The only thing that we do ask is if you go online and you sign up for a shift, that you should likely be able to stay for, just stay for the whole shift. Sometimes people will say, well, I'm going to come in and I'm going to leave at this time. And that's not necessarily that you can't do that. I just then ask volunteers just to reach out to me specifically and say, hey, Tara, I have a doctor's appointment. Is it okay if I leave at 11:30 instead of 1? And that's usually not at all a problem. What I just then end up doing is I end up creating another slot online just to fill in for that extra time. And it just keeps the schedule running and the place going smoothly, right? So really, it's just communication. I will get back to you very quickly if you leave a message or if you send an email, like usually within 24 hours. It's not typical that you'll have to wait longer than that.
Very well-oiled machine.
Shockingly.
And if you come in and watch us chopping vegetables, we're all lined up and busy chopping, or washing lettuce, whatever we're doing. But it's such a friendly atmosphere if you want to work there.
It is. We try to, I like to say it's very busy, but it's very laid back, which I know sounds like it might be at odds, but it is. So,
We all work.
yeah, everybody's busy working.
And we're enjoying ourselves because we're talking to our neighbors and we get to know them. So I find it a wonderful place to work. And after coming here today, I'm thinking I should be more days.
You should be there tomorrow, I think.
I don't know if you said it in the beginning or not, but what's your name?
Sorry, my name is Tara Chwanek, and I'm the Assistant Outreach Director for Toni's Kitchen. And I have cards here too. My last name is a bit of a mouthful, but it's Chwanek.
Now, if you wanted to make a donation, you would make it to Toni's Kitchen
Yes.
and send it to St. Luke's?
Yeah, no, definitely. So you could, so you could send it to, you could make it out to Toni's Kitchen. We are a 501c3 under St. Luke's Church, but you can make it out to Toni's Kitchen. You can mail it to Toni's Kitchen. On our address is listed here. You can also make a donation online. Some people like to do that. So if you go to our website, there's a big green, bright donate button. And you can also designate it. So if you have a particular program that we have that resonates with you, maybe you really want to support the backpack program or another program that we have, you can designate the gift towards that or put it in honor or memory in someone. And that you could also do if you wrote the check, but online it gives you those options as well. You guys have great questions. I realized all the things that I left out.
Well, thank you so much to Tara.
Thank you.
And further thank you to Toni's Kitchen for their donation of the lunch today. So it was a double win. Thank you so much for everybody for coming, and I look forward to seeing you again